Hey everybody, welcome to Teddy Fisher TV. Today you join me at Averone Park Lake, not far from the grounds of Averone Priory. This traditionally is more of a carp water. A lot of specimen lads come on here, fishing the boilies and the big baits, looking for the big fish. And today I actually came to do a feature on slider fishing, but as you can see I've arrived and -2 through the night has put a real lid of ice on the lake. So we can switch things up a little bit and we can fish through the ice. Not only is there a number of carp in here, but there's roach, perch, skimmers, the usual suspects. Now, I've only got rudimentary tackle with me. It's simply a pole, one rig, and take it from there and work our way backwards. You'll see at the start of the video today that I've broken the ice in a sort of 11 metres and given myself a little bit of room. If this was a commercial venue, I'd have probably done it slightly different. I'd have had different channels to target different areas of the swim. But with it being such a big lake, I'm trying to bring the fish to me, and I don't want to miss out on having to sort of swap between different lines. I have got 2 lines on the go in this hole that I've created. The first one's at about 8.5 metres to the right hand side, just on the edge of the ice, and the second one on my main line is 11 metres straight in front of me. Now when fishing through the ice, I always find it best to pull your rig as close to the ice as possible, so we're trying to draw those fish into the open water. As it starts melting later on, we can fish in the sort of the pool that we've created for ourselves. As I say, one rig, simplicity in itself. I'm probably slightly overgunned on the elastic front. I've got a 6 to 8 hybrid elastic. It's by a New Fish, and the reason why I've chosen that one is because there's a number of bigger bream in here and carp. It's highly unlikely I would get a carp out, but I'm going to give myself a little bit of a chance by having a slightly stronger elastic and stopping the fish shooting off straight underneath the ice. The line is point 13, that's a Guru main line, and the hook length is point 10 fluorocarbon. And I've spoke about this quite a lot recently, in that in these deeper venues, this swim is probably about 8.5 foot deep. A slightly stiffer hook length will give better bite registration, and it's virtually invisible as well. A size 20 hook, it's a Drennan Carp Maggot. And then similar to when we did the deep water feature not long ago on Peacock Waters, I've got 1, 2, 3 droppers. They're number 9s, slightly more positive than when I'm fishing through the layers. And then I've got a strung bulk of number 9s. So there's quite a lot of number 9s there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 number 9s. I could have had an Olivet, but that really does bomb it to one point, and then we get that arc which we discussed in the deep water. I want a slightly more slower fall. And then the float is a very, very old one. I must have had this float 20 years. It's an old number 1 Drennan Team England, and that's 0.8 of a gram. And remember the rule of thumb, which I always talk about fishing through the water, 0.1 of a gram for every foot of water. So this is 8.5, 9 foot deep, 0.8 of a gram perfect. Just a little back shot to keep everything nice and tidy, and a little cad pot to keep things very concentrated. Because we're fishing right up to the ice, if I'm firing maggots over the top, I'm not going to be deadly accurate and they're going to go all over the place. So we'll feed through the pot and we'll ping a couple of maggots over the top as well. Another thing is to have that float dotted down as tight as possible to the surface. So let's have a little look. The bait tray is pretty straightforward in that we've got a pint of red and white maggots with a bit of Teddy Fisher's ground bait spice on there. I'm predominantly going to be targeting roach. I'm not convinced that the skimmers will feed in these conditions, but you never know, I guess. And I have mixed up some ground bait as well. And that ground bait mixture is not a lot, just 1/4 of a bag of roach and 1/4 of a bag of bream, the dark bream mix. You know, we've said many times that the Teddy Fisher range is simplicity in itself. It's very literal. I'm fishing for roach and bream. I'm going to use a roach and bream ground bait. What I have done is I have put it through a riddle and taken out any sort of excess feed and any big bits, and that's really important in these very cold conditions. So on this 11 metre line now, I'm not feeding at the moment. I'm just dropping it in and seeing what's about there. We're going tight up to the ice. Just sort of flicking the rig slightly to the right and letting that arc fall down. So we've got that relatively slow fall in the last sort of 3 foot. That's where those 3 droppers are. Hook length's 12 inches long. I like a long hook length in deeper water. A little bite just missed. and it gives that slightly slower drop, as I said, and it's because it's quite stiff. It gives a nice fall. Fishing with Dave Costa next door. He's on the next peg along. He's catching nice and steady through the water as well. I've had a couple of roach. I've been fishing about an hour, and I think similar to the deep water session that we did last time, it's about having a bit of patience in this weather. It really is. You know, I've put one ball of ground bait in and a couple of maggots every time I go over the top through the cad pot. And it's just working your way in. You know, you don't want to overfeed the fish, and just sort of playing it by ear. And this little line to the right, just a section or so shorter against the ice here, I've fed a little bit of chopped worm and some loose fed maggots as well. No ground bait on that line, and I'm thinking potentially for perch there. So there's a bit of everything in this lake. It's full of great big carp. Brilliant in summer, but this time of the year, you know, we're looking for anything that swims really, and it just having a nice sort of balanced rig, not too heavy, not too light, in case I hook anything decent, and work our way into swim. Same as all these features that we do. It's steady, and take it as we go. It's the temperature at the minute, I think it's just about freezing point. It's due to go up to about 4 degrees today, so the ice may well start to melt and gives a little bit more room to play with. We always talk about the weather in these sessions as well, because it's the one thing that we can't control, and it has such a big impact on the fish throughout autumn and winter. We can't just throw a load of gear in and you know, expect them to sort of turn up. We're trying to entice bites out of nowhere really in these conditions, so we'll get cracking. We'll might get some tips off Dave, because he's definitely catching more than me next door, and see how we go. Okay, well, little change of angle for you. We're mid-session now, and the fish have definitely moved in. Dave's caught steady next door, and he gave me a top tip and said they're coming to the ground bait loose. So what I've been doing is I've topped up twice with half a cup of loose ground bait, that mix of roach and bream. It's definitely made a difference, and what's happening is as soon as those last 3 droppers take up and register and the bait hits the deck, that's when I'm getting the bite. Very similar to when we did the deep water session a few weeks ago. Challenge I've bumped a few fish. Could do the lighter elastic, but I did lose a big perch on worm earlier on, which demonstrates why I've got this slightly heavy elastic on. But the bank behind me is very steep as well, and when you're trying to keep the pole high, that's when I'm sort of bumping 1 or 2 fish. But it's still steady sport, and in this weather is great. 2 more little changes that I've made. I've put a shot closer to the hook, so my last dropper is now 5 inches away. That's magnifying the bites a bit better. And I've also shortened the lash between, there we go, shortened the lash between the float and the pole tip. And we're catching these little roach, sort of 2 ounce a piece. You know, lovely little fish. Pretty steadily now. I'm not beating Dave, he's had a cheeky skimmer about £1 next door. And this is pretty much, if it was going to fish today, if we were going to catch fish, I knew it would be a roach day, because it's that cold. Roach and perch. It's now 2 degrees according to my weather app, and the ice is starting to recede ever so slightly. And we might, you never know, we might get skimmers coming later on. There's a fair few in this lake, that is for sure. But I think what we'll do now is we'll just continue with this. I'll keep looking over this chopped worm line to my right hand side, looking for a bonus fish. But this is pretty much explored. See, I've just bumped that one. It's really difficult with that high bank behind me. But I think that's the way today. What I could do, but it might affect the bite rate, is put a bigger hook on. As I say, I'm bumping these fish. And it might be, I've only got that 20s hook on and it might be slightly unbalanced. So I think we'll plug away and see if we can catch another fish. And the bailiffs come for my money, so we'll plug away, see if we catch one more fish. If there's any other big changes or any other big fish that we catch on camera, we'll pop them in. If not, we'll just keep putting roach in the net and get a little catch shot at the end. But I think on days like today, we didn't know what to expect. I thought I might even blank, but no, putting in that loose ground bait has definitely made a big difference. And let's just keep popping these in the net. So we shall carry on. There's a bite. What's this on the worm? A little hybrid. Well, we're coming into the witching hour now, sort of last hour. Light's starting to fade. It's about as warm as it's going to get today at 3 degrees. Put another ball in long, hard, so it breaks up on the bottom. My thinking is, if any bonus fish are going to feed, it'll be now. And we'll try and catch them on the deck. I did come off the bottom a couple of inches earlier on. I had a bit of a run of those roach. I've also put a bigger hook on, an 18, because I was bumping way too many fish, and that's helped. I've definitely lost less fish. And I've also been a bit more positive on this short line. I've put quite a big pot of chopped worm in, just to see if there's anything better knocking about on there. So this is the time really to expect anything decent, but in general it's been all roach, a couple of ounce a piece, like peas in a pod. And do you know what, on a day like this, it's been good fun. And I guess that's the theme really, with all these videos in winter. It's about getting bites. It's about putting fish in the net and enjoying yourself. Pretty much that's the average stamp, sort of an ounce, 2 ounce a piece. I did bump a skimmer earlier on, and I know it was a skimmer because I had slime up the line. Another thing I've done is I've shortened the lash even further between the float and the tip of the pole. I've kept the odd loose ball of ground bait going in. Oh, sorry, a loose cup of ground bait, should I say. So every time it goes quiet, little top up, and it definitely brings them back again. So I think what we'll do is we'll fish away, see if we can get a bonus fish. If not, we'll have a look how many roach we've had. Well, there we go. Proof's in the pudding there that fishing through the ice doesn't have to be a disaster. There's bites to be had. Take it steady as always, feed to your bites, work your way into the session. And there's a net there of pristine roach, all roach except one little hybrid over the Teddy Fisher roach, ground bait and a little bit of bream in there as well. Fishing a single maggot. Ring the changes off the bottom, on the bottom, smaller hook, bigger hook, just to make sure that those bites keep coming. So hopefully you've got some tips, and Thanks for watching.